Alaska is twice the size of Texas, yet more people live in Delaware than the entire state. Why? Well, this isn't just about cold weather. Imagine paying $12 for milk, dodging grizzly bears on your morning walk, and surviving months of darkness or non-stop daylight. Sounds wild, right? But what makes life here so extreme? And why do most Americans say no thanks to calling Alaska home? Today, we're diving headfirst into the jaw-dropping reasons why so few dare to live in America's last true frontier. Number 1. Extreme weather and daylight swings. Imagine waking up to pitch black at 10 a.m. and still needing headlights at 3 p.m. And that's if the sun even shows up. Welcome to Alaska's notorious winter, where daylight becomes a precious, fleeting visitor. In places like Fairbanks, you get barely 3 to 4 hours of sunlight during deep winter, with temperatures plunging to a bone-snapping minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit. That's so cold, your eyelashes freeze, your nose hairs turn to icicles, and tossing a cup of boiling water into the air instantly creates a cloud of snow. A party trick here they call the Alaskan Boiling Water Challenge. It's not just cold. It's a cold that punches through 5 layers of clothing like a heavyweight champ. And then, like a cosmic prank, come the summers, where the sun refuses to go down. In Barrow, now called Utqiagvik, the sun rises in May and doesn't set again for 83 days. Think about it. 83 straight days of daylight. Imagine trying to sleep when it's 2 a.m. and your backyard looks like noon at a beach party. Blackout curtains? Non-negotiable. It messes with your brain. Studies show that Alaska has one of the highest rates of seasonal affective disorder (SAD) in the U.S., affecting nearly 10% of Alaskans, double the national average, because of this insane dance between darkness and light. Anchorage, the biggest city, averages 75 inches of snow every winter. That's like burying an entire giraffe in snowflakes. In Fairbanks, winter temperatures routinely plunge to minus 30 degrees Fahrenheit. And the record low? A jaw-dropping minus 66 degrees Fahrenheit. For context, that's colder than a freezer in Antarctica, which averages about minus 58 degrees Fahrenheit. Forget chilly. This is survival mode. Cars need engine block heaters just to start. Locals literally plug their vehicles into electrical outlets like life support for a machine. But extreme daylight swings do more than just mess with your circadian rhythms. They rewire your entire lifestyle. Kids in Nome head to school in the dark and come home in the dark. Midday lunch breaks happen under a dim, twilight sky. It's so disorienting that tourists often say it feels like living inside a sci-fi movie, where time and space have gone rogue. Conversely, during endless summer days, baseball games don't need stadium lights. People mow lawns at midnight. And midnight sun marathons kick off at 10 p.m., sunglasses on, obviously. Here's the real kicker. The sheer mood swings from one season to the next. Alaskans go from winter hibernation zombies to full-throttle summer adventurers. When that first real sunrise hits in March, it's not unusual to see entire neighborhoods outside, squinting up at the sky like they've just spotted an alien spacecraft. Vitamin D supplements? Practically a food group here. And despite all the challenges, some locals claim they wouldn't trade it for the world. Because nothing feels quite as electric as those rare, golden sunrises after 60 days of dark. Living in Alaska is like being on a constant roller coaster between two extremes. Endless night and endless day, freezing blizzards and sunshine at midnight. It's beautiful, brutal, and wildly surreal all at once. And it's a major reason why so few dare to call it home. Number 2. Vast geography and rugged terrain. Alaska isn't just big, it's ridiculously big. We're talking about a state so massive that you could fit Texas, California, and Montana inside it, with room to spare. That's over 663,000 square miles of wild, untamed land. If Alaska were its own country, it would be the 18th largest in the world, bigger than France, Germany, and the UK combined. But here's the kicker. Despite its size, it's practically empty. The population density is about 1.3 people per square mile, meaning if you wandered a single square mile, you'd likely be all alone. Except for the moose, bears, and maybe a curious wolf. Now imagine driving across Alaska. Well, you can't. The state has fewer than 16,000 miles of paved roads, compared to Texas's 313,000 miles. Entire regions aren't even accessible by car. If you want to visit villages like Bethel or Nome, you're hopping on a plane or braving a boat. In fact, 82% of Alaskan communities aren't connected to a road system at all. Think about that. You can't even do a good old-fashioned road trip here, unless your idea of a road trip involves snowmobiles, bush planes, and float planes landing on remote lakes. And speaking of terrain, Alaska isn't gentle. This place is like Mother Nature's obstacle course. The Alaska Range is home to Denali, North America's tallest peak at 20,310 feet. Taller than Everest if you measure from base to summit. Towering mountains slice across the landscape, while fjords, glaciers, volcanoes, and endless boreal forests make large swaths completely uninhabitable. The terrain isn't just remote, it's rugged, unforgiving, and often dangerous. Landslides, avalanches, and earthquakes are part of the daily reality. Alaska averages about 1,000 earthquakes every month, that's 12,000 a year. It's the most seismically active state in the US. Now here's a mindbender. Alaska has 3 million lakes and over 12,000 rivers. So even if you could drive in a straight line, odds are you'd hit water long before your destination. Some communities rely entirely on boats and float planes for supplies. Picture this. In Port Allsworth, a tiny town of about 160 people, groceries are flown in by small aircraft, sometimes only every couple of months. Amazon Prime? Forget 2-day delivery. You're lucky if your order shows up in 2 months. And in the winter, when rivers freeze and snow blankets the land, entire ice roads open up. Temporary highways across frozen waterways. It's like something out of Ice Road Truckers. But these roads are dangerous, unpredictable, and vanish once the thaw hits. So while Alaska's sheer beauty is jaw-dropping, glistening glaciers, majestic peaks, emerald forests, it comes with brutal logistical challenges. Getting from point A to point B here isn't a simple commute. It's an adventure, often involving planes, boats, snow machines, and a big dose of luck. In short, Alaska's geography is awe-inspiring, but it's also one gigantic reason why so few people live here. Because surviving this wild, rugged expanse takes grit, guts, and a love for the extreme. Number 3, remoteness and limited infrastructure. Now picture this. You live in a tiny Alaskan village. The nearest Walmart? 400 miles away. The closest hospital? A bush plane ride. The road out of town? Oh wait, there is no road. That's life for a huge chunk of Alaska. In fact, a mind-blowing 82% of Alaskan communities have no road access whatsoever. Let that sink in. 4 out of 5 towns can't be reached by car. Instead, folks rely on small planes, boats, snowmobiles, or in some cases, dog sleds. Yes, in 2025, there are still places where sled dogs are essential transportation. This remoteness makes Alaska feel like a different planet. Anchorage, the largest city, has about 288,000 residents, and it's the hub for most supplies. But outside that bubble, things get wild. For example, if you live in Nome, population approximately 3,500, you're completely disconnected from the state's road system. Groceries, mail, medicine, everything arrives by air or seasonal barge. In Barrow, Utqiagvik, the northernmost town in America, a single plane ticket to Anchorage can cost $500 to $800 round trip. And that's if the weather cooperates. Flights are often delayed for days due to fog, blizzards, or Arctic storms. And speaking of weather, when those small planes can't fly, life screeches to a halt. I talked to a teacher in Bethel who said that during harsh winters, milk can hit $12 a gallon because no flights can deliver fresh supplies. Bread? Try $7 a loaf. Gasoline in some remote areas hovers around $6 to $8 per gallon. Imagine filling your car, if you even have one, and dropping nearly $100 for a tank of gas. Internet? Spotty. While Starlink is improving things, many rural Alaskans still deal with limited connectivity, painfully slow speeds, and hefty data caps. And healthcare? In many villages, there's no full-time doctor, just a health aide trained in basic care. For serious emergencies, patients must be airlifted, sometimes hundreds of miles, to Anchorage or Fairbanks. That's why Alaska has one of the highest medevac rates per capita in the US. Even infrastructure in larger towns isn't a sure thing. The Alaska Marine Highway System, the state's ferry network, has faced budget cuts. leaving many coastal communities even more isolated. In winter, ferries often don't run at all. Power outages are common, and running water isn't guaranteed in all homes. In fact, in some villages, residents still haul water from a central tank, in temperatures of -30 degrees Fahrenheit. All of this creates a unique, frontier-like vibe. Life here demands resilience, planning, and acceptance of uncertainty. You might wait weeks for a package or cancel plans because the only flight got grounded. And for many Americans used to instant gratification and seamless convenience, that remoteness and lack of infrastructure is just too daunting. In short, Alaska's isolation isn't a minor quirk, it's a way of life. And for most folks, it's one big reason they simply choose not to live here. Number 4, high cost of living. Living in Alaska isn't just an adventure, it's expensive. And I'm not talking about a little extra for the view. I'm talking sticker shock on everyday stuff that'll leave your wallet gasping for air. Why? Because nearly everything has to be shipped in, by boat, plane, or truck, across thousands of miles of rugged terrain, icy seas, and frozen tundra. The result? Prices that make even the most seasoned city dwellers blink. Let's start with groceries. In Anchorage, Alaska's biggest city and cheapest spot for food, a gallon of milk can run $5 to $6. But head to rural towns like Nome or Bethel, and that same gallon? $10 to $12. I'm not kidding. There are villages where folks literally ration milk because it's so pricey. A loaf of bread? Around $7. A dozen eggs? $6 to $9. It's like shopping in an airport. Every single day. Fuel costs? While U.S. gas prices have averaged $3.50 to $4 per gallon recently, many parts of rural Alaska pay $6 to $9 a gallon, or more in extreme outposts. In remote Arctic communities, gasoline is often flown in at enormous expense. Imagine paying $150 to fill up a pickup truck. And you have to drive hundreds of miles just to get anywhere. Housing isn't cheap either. Median home prices in Anchorage hover around $440,000, higher than the U.S. average. And that's in a city where winters routinely hit -20 degrees Fahrenheit and snow piles up for months. In places like Juneau, homes average $525,000, despite the fact that the city is only accessible by boat or plane. Now imagine the cost of building in a remote village. Materials like lumber, insulation, and concrete often double or triple in price because they're flown in. A simple house in the Alaskan bush can easily top $500,000 to $600,000, and that's without modern luxuries. And utilities? Also sky high. Heating oil, essential for surviving Alaska's brutal winters, costs $5 to $8 per gallon. A single winter's heating bill can run $5,000 to $7,000 for an average home. Electricity rates are about 50% higher than the national average, especially in remote villages where diesel generators power the grid. Healthcare adds another layer. Even in Anchorage, medical care is expensive, and many specialized services require flying to Seattle or another lower 48 city. If you need emergency surgery and live in Nome, you're likely hopping on a $20,000 medevac flight, often not fully covered by insurance. Even fun costs more. Want a Big Mac? In Anchorage, it's $6.50 to $7. In Barrow, close to $10. Think about that. Fast food that's more expensive than a fancy burger in New York. All of this adds up fast. In fact, Alaska ranks consistently among the top 3 most expensive states to live in the U.S., despite its remote, rugged nature. And for many Americans used to suburban comfort and affordable living, that relentless price tag is a massive reason they steer clear of the last frontier. Number 5, wildlife and harsh risk factors. Now let's talk about the wild side of Alaska. And I mean wild. This isn't your average watch out for raccoons kind of place. Here, the neighbors include bears, moose, wolves, and even the occasional wolverine. And they're not confined to national parks. They roam through backyards, cross highways, and sometimes even wander onto airport runways. Living in Alaska means you're constantly aware that nature's apex predators are never too far away. Start with bears. Alaska is home to an estimated 30,000 brown grizzly bears and another 100,000 black bears. To put that in perspective, there's roughly 1 bear for every 5 Alaskans. In towns like Homer or Sitka, it's totally normal to see bear alert warnings posted around trails and schools. Some neighborhoods even have bear patrols to keep trash bins secured and kids safe on the way to class. A casual hike here? It means packing bear spray and knowing how to use it. Then there's the moose. These massive creatures look slow and goofy until they charge. Weighing up to 1,500 pounds and standing 6 to 7 feet tall at the shoulder, moose are responsible for more injuries in Alaska than bears. In Anchorage alone, locals report up to 1,200 moose sightings every year inside the city limits. Picture stepping out for your morning coffee run and finding one of these towering beasts blocking your driveway. Wolves? Yep, they're here too, around 7,000 to 11,000 statewide. While they generally avoid humans, encounters do happen. And let's not forget polar bears. In northern villages like Kaktovik and Utqiagvik, residents deal with polar bears coming into town, especially as melting sea ice forces them inland. It's so serious that some communities have dedicated polar bear patrols to guard schoolyards. Wildlife aside, Mother Nature throws in plenty of other hazards. Alaska ranks #1 in the US for earthquakes, about 12,000 a year. In 2018, a 7.1 magnitude quake rocked Anchorage, causing highways to buckle and buildings to sway. Volcanic eruptions? You bet. The state has over 130 volcanoes and around 50 are considered active. The weather is another beast entirely. Blizzards, ice storms, and hurricane-force winds aren't rare. In coastal towns, winds have hit 100+ miles per hour, strong enough to toss boats like bathtub toys. Extreme cold spells can cause frostbite in under 10 minutes of exposed skin. In northern Alaska, entire buildings are designed on stilts to prevent them from sinking into thawing permafrost. All these risks mean life here demands constant vigilance. In many villages, kids are taught wildlife safety from a young age, and adults never leave town unprepared. Emergency supplies and food, water, fuel are stockpiled in case bad weather or wildlife shuts down transportation for days or even weeks. For most Americans, the idea of bears in the backyard, earthquakes underfoot, and moose in the driveway is just too much. And it's a major reason why, despite Alaska's staggering beauty, so few choose to live in this truly wild frontier.